Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Oh my goodness.
Hey,
happy Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday in advance. We're recording this on a Tuesday evening.
We're just the night before.
We're going to be headed to the airport.
It's a travel day tomorrow.
So just put a little streamer on there to let you know we're pre-recorded. Yeah. So if you send in your comments and we don't respond, you'll know why.
We'll have to respond after the podcast when we catch it on social media. So
yep. So just had the opportunity to hop in the studio and record for our Wednesday in advance. Just had a lot of fun stuff to talk about coming off of the V8 meeting. We hosted V8 meeting tonight, and it reminds me, Michelle, how much I just really love what I do.
You're so dang good at it too.
Well, I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. I just think I came away from the meeting. We had a smaller group. Had some of our dealers couldn't make it tonight. We had a smaller group. We had one dealer who's well established and pretty good sized portfolio was there, really kind of to learn, but also happy to step in and mentor the dealers that are in the 100 to 500 account range.
And that was something when Jim came up after he was done with the meeting and he was telling me about that. And I said, that is a very unique thing in the industry that is not really, it's kind of the only place that I know of where you can go and have a dealer that is like in a very different paradigm in a business, come and be a part of the meeting and to be able to offer some wisdom in
and offer their phone number.
And they offer their phone number.
Just from a different group and said, Jim, make sure, this dealer has my phone number, have them reach out to me, because they were talking about some really important stuff around capital, which is really kind of the reason that I wanted to go the direction I did with the title and the conversation today is today's conversation in that group was sort of an amplification of the things that I see in my work across the work that we do and working with data, obviously in V8 and working with dealer clients and working with lenders and sort of these dealers growing. So let me kind of give you a microcosm. One of the conversations was our business is doing well. We've grown it a lot with our own cash. We don't have much retail business, so we're building on our buy here, pay here from our own cash, really. And we have places we could go to get cash, versus maybe traditional line of credit. And so they were talking through that, and they were able to ask somebody who's been there, done that, who's built a business, partially on debt, partially on their own assets. And so there was some really great advice. And it just kind of, as we talk through it, it just illustrates sort of that void that exists. And I was just struck through the whole conversation throughout the night. I was able to share with them that, we're going to be speaking. I'm going to be on the stage at NIAD, and we're going to be talking about success tools that are aimed at a lot of these things that were touched on tonight in this group.
Oh, fantastic.
So, because all the work is really, our industry has this unique problem of having, you've got cash flow to think about, capital constraints, capital demands of growing a portfolio. So there's cash flow, and then there's profit. And we talked about the fact that profit has been a bigger part of the conversation. Normally, you can almost take profit for granted in the buy here, pay here space, but we're finding that lenders are really pressing their dealers at the point of renewal to demonstrate their profitability and so on. And so this is part of what you realize that the challenges that this industry faces are not new. We have new technology and new solutions coming into the space. And I just see it as a really wonderful time and opportunity for us to bring together many of those resources to solve some of these problems in this kind of fragmented space, right?
Yeah. So as the title, it's From Limitations to Launchpads.
Yeah.
I wasn't there at the meeting, and so was it having someone there that has gone to the other side of this that really added that this is a launch pad, or
they added sort of a path, right? And they didn't say it was a quick fix, but they said this is how you could build your way into. Keep in mind, there's multiple conversations kind of layered on top of one another in just this one dialogue between, younger dealer versus more established dealer. And so part of that was around ways to create wealth, ways to create leverage, and kind of the pace, and also talking about exit. We have a dealer in that group who has a health scare, and it's a serious one. It's at least got them thinking very seriously about their own mortality, and I'm quite sure it has them thinking.
Oh my gosh,
about,
how many dealers? If we
Right.
I
talked to them about the fact that you and I talk about enterprise value all the time, and I said there's there's an actual like liquid market value of your business if you were to sell it. But then in addition to that, there's what is the sustainability of your business? Could it, if something were to happen to a dealer who was not able to continue to perform and function in the role in the same way, then what would that mean to the business? Could the business, could it persist? Could it stay as a going concern and produce income for loved ones and for the family? So there's all these kind of layers to what we do and things to think about. And I just think it just, again, tonight's conversation just sort of highlighted the problems that exist in our industry, and sort of the thing that I see that White Hat Way's in a position to do is to take on some of this stuff, ask the questions of the providers, and bring some of these solutions together because I think the job for buy here, pay here dealers is just more difficult than it has to be.
Yeah.
Right. It's a hard thing. The dealer who's well established acknowledge that. Yeah, it's a hard business, and there are places where you can go wrong and this and that.
There's places you can explode. You can fiery burnout too.
It can go sideways, and so there can be some things that go badly. But I think I really bring a really positive outlook to the thing to say I think that when we get cooperation from the providers, the people in the industry who have the resources, who have the means and the tools to be able to bring to the problem, just bring their toolbox and let's open the toolbox and let's get busy solving some of these pieces. I'll give you one example. We talked about in the meeting tonight that, these dealers come up to this renewal and
with their capital
provider, lender, whatever kind of traditional revolving line of credit or whatever they might have. And one of the conversations that you've heard through the podcast alone is like LTV. What is LTV? Loan to value. It's like, what is the loan? What is your loan amount, or what is your amount financed relative to the value of the collateral? And in their case, they're talking about the book value of the car.
Like if it had to be sold.
At least I'm saying according to the book. It's like if you and I went shopping for a used car and we chose Kelley Blue Book or whatever book, we would find a reference to say, what's the car really worth? Okay. So the lender obviously is more interested in that. The dealer might book the car in for $5,000 as a repo, but the lender wants to know, what's it really worth? Is it really worth $3,500? Is it really worth $6,500? What's the book say? We don't have that information. I don't have it in V8. Most of the dealers in their DMS don't have that information. Yet with lenders, they're trying to grow to a place where they can get to capital, and it's not a number that they're tracking currently. And it's one of the most important things with lenders, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I just told the group, I said, we don't have that. I don't have that in VA because you guys as dealers don't typically have it in your DMS. So you're really just talking about an integration. But it's like the lender expects to have it. We really ought to know what it looks like, in our own portfolios. And we simply don't have it from the DMS. And 99% of the cases. I'm not exaggerating. Like, I just don't see LTV the car being booked at the time of contract, time of origination. And if it's showing up somewhere else in a different system, it's not in there where we manage all the stuff. Yeah. Right. And so this is just, it's an opportunity. It's like when you and I do these SWOT analysis, and whatever you put down as a weakness is usually
it's really an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, right? And so this is the way I'm thinking about all these things that I see in our industry. Like there are challenges and there are limitations and there are frustrations. The good news is many of us see the disconnect And we are rallying the people who have the means to solve these problems, and we're working on it. So just, and I would say that those folks who step forward in whether it's technology or whatever these solutions are going to look like, they're going to see life get easier. They're going to see a path from B to C to D and right on up the way.
This kind of still, it goes into this whole thing that this enterprise value is a conversation that we've been having in a public way for years now. And so many of the capital providers and dealers, and it's like, there is no such thing in buy here, pay here. That it's just it's a liquidation sale and that's it. And it's funny because when we first started having these conversations with those that are like, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. We'd say, if these certain things were part of the industry and were, just not major standardizations, but some things that just, and this isn't really a standardization, but it's also, it's along those same lines of dealers looking at things the same way and being able to say, my portfolio right now, the LTV or whatever, regardless of whether or not they have a capital provider, but having that information, that is really incredibly valuable. And one of the things you and we have been beating the drum that it doesn't have to be a liquidation. It doesn't have to be a liquidation.
I mean, it's like anything. There has to be a buyer for it. But how do we make it attractive for a buyer? So you and I could do a whole separate conversation on that. And we have done right around. But I think this is kind of touches on the piece about you can create that value. And I think it becomes sobering when you've got a dealer who's the primary principal who realizes there's nobody else in the building who can really do the job that they currently do. And now they have this sobering news that they're being called in for an emergency MRI kind of thing. And so this dealer is like reeling and thinking,
what
because it's what's that going to mean to me and my business? And I've spent my career, building this thing, and what else, so I'm just saying these are things that, if you owned a franchise group, multiple franchise, that wouldn't be, you'd have a market for those kind of things, right? You'd have a place to go. But I think this is both an opportunity and it's a challenge in our space. And I just think we dig into it.
Yeah. Anyone out there listening that would like to watch, we did a half day event on enterprise value. And had a hour-long conversation about capital, an hour-long it's just
accounting, cash flow,
I mean, it was a great event, and you can find that on BHPHinstitute.com. And that's our platform for online education that that is
that was so rich. I mean, so many
really great
top experts from the industry were part of that day,
and it's still 100% relevant.
Yeah, true, absolutely is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's kind of evergreen stuff.
It really is.
That we did in that event. So I think it's important for dealers to recognize there are solutions here. Right. There are ways to get there. I think what we ask dealers to do all the time, and tonight's conversation was a really good example of how we stop for a minute talking about cash and deal and all the stuff that dealers spend their days talking about. Say, let's talk about wealth creation. Let's talk about how do we get from here to there.
Then that's something that it's another drum. It's not just the enterprise value, but it's like, what do you really want out of life?
Yeah.
That's the bigger question you should ask yourself. And I know with dealers that we have had as clients over the years, that when we would go in and sit down with them, we'd do a discovery of like 2.5 days and, talk to the team and talk to them. And one of the assignments that the dealers have is go sit down with your wife, do it by yourself and also, or with your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
And really have a frank conversation about what a perfect life would look like.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, the wife, I'd really like to see you home more often.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see you be able to participate in some of the things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kids are growing and you've been so, because a lot of dealers, they get on that hamster wheel and
Sure.
But, you know, taking that time to just really ask yourself some of those super important questions, because, you know, we get so tunnel visioned
Mm-hmm.
in the day to day and the keeping our heads above water and all of that. But until you have a vision of where you're going, you can't create a roadmap to that.
Right.
You're just kind of zigzagging around and, you know, and it's really, really, that's, I think one of the big things when you bring in a dealer that has been around for a while and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, has been thinking about different things and just the kind of conversations. And V8 though, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if everyone listening really understands the ecosystem.
Okay.
So White Hat Way Incorporated is the parent company of all the things that we've created.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasts, the Institute, you know, all of the things. V8 is one of those things
Mm-hmm.
in White Hat Way Incorporated.
Yeah.
And so, and V8 is, you know, something that Jim launched a year ago. And it's
almost a year and a half now.
Almost a year and a half ago. Yeah. And it's in that one of the things that dealers are able to do, if they can't make their group, then there are opportunities to go to a different group and still have a conversation. Yeah. And so this, you know, the opportunity for that dealer to be able to come and sit with the others, that doesn't happen anywhere else that I can think of. Yeah,
that's true. I think that is part of what's happening. And I think the data part that, you know, we do in VA, and look, another part of the conversation tonight with same dealers, like there was the thing about, you know, if some of these numbers aren't right, then it makes you lose confidence in the whole thing, which is very valid point. I feel that same way as a data person, and we don't want data that's not going to be accurate. We don't think people should bother to show up and give their time of an evening, you know, to meet with other dealers and talk around data that's not accurate. It's not, if it's not valid, then it serves no one really. And so we're very committed to making sure that those things line up and dealers can have valid conversations. And then there's also just this piece about there was the wealth building conversation that included things around real estate. Yeah. And there's just, it's all of it is really, when you back up to what you said about White Hat Way and this V8 being just one solution. An example was one of the dealer who was asking about, was considering, you know, getting a mortgage on their home or whatever to get the next round of capital. How should I take the next step? And I just was able to say to them, look, you know, you and I could have a really great conversation with your local lender right now, just based on your V8 data history alone. Like, you've got enough months of history strung month over month to be able to tell a story about what your business does. Yeah. On a single sheet of paper, we can show them how it functions. And so I think this is just part of the value. It's part of the value of what happens, but you just got to start, you got to have comparable stuff, and you got to have, you know, you got to string it all together so that you can tell the story. And it's kind of funny because before V8 was created, that we're coaching, and so many people said you can't scale coaching. Well, that's what V8 does. Well, it's group coaching. I don't think of it so much as we certainly do some coaching, especially in our newcomer group. But the whole idea is like that coaching thing. So how many times have you either been included in a conversation with capital providers that are banks, or have prepared, here's the print offs of all of the data that we've been stringing together over the course of the last whatever. And that, you know, you now are in a position, because you've been tracking a lot of these things with the dealers and the groups, that it's like, if you need it, we can get the stuff. And I'm sure I can get permission to pull the quotes from what was said tonight. But the one dealer who's well established, he said, I went to my lender with a very well prepared plan, probably more sophisticated than they're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was based on their own cash flows, their history of cash flows, their projections. And they're very much on plan from what they deliver to the bank. So it's just, it's a way to connect the dots. And, I was able to share with what we've heard from others about how, data is going to be really important. We talk about data is key. And yeah, you've got the artificial intelligence piece coming on. And so how we utilize data is going to be a connection to capital, which is going to be a connection to growth, which is going to be wealth building, which is going to be creating a sustainable business that has enterprise value. All those things can be achieved. You just got to you got to start here, get to a place where your numbers are comparable and you can make sense of them, adjust them where needed, and be able to to build accordingly. But I would just say that, for tonight, I just came away from it just feeling really fortunate to be in a position to be able to just encourage those conversations between dealers. And let's get past the thing about, you can go on Facebook and talk about cash and deal. In these meetings, I'm going to be nudging them. And sometimes it's going to turn into a little harder nudge, because you see me do that with clients. It's like, sometimes we have to kind of press to a place. Let's get past this conversation about the day to day, and let's talk about what can be achieved in your business and in your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you just can kind of back up and see it for what it is, and where it fits in the grand scheme of what's to be accomplished. And I would just say everything seems to be moving in our favor in the industry. And some of us are going to just help to make sure it happens faster.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Good. All right,
that's
good.
Fantastic.
We should wrap up then.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we are, again, pre-recorded. We will be, when y'all listen to this, we'll be in the air somewhere.
In flight.
In flight. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your support. And again, if you're interested in learning more about enterprise value, go to bhphinstitute.com, and there is in there the all-day live stream. All of the sessions are in there. And also, if you are interested in joining a V8 group, reach out. We would love to have a conversation with you about that.
Let's introduce you to these dealers.
And if you're going to be at NIADA's conference, we will see you there, and we can talk all things.
That's right.
Data,
Come
White Hat Way, V8, all the things. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thanks again so much.